Were you surprised by this overnight operation?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I think a lot of people assumed that this would be a gradual ratcheting up, that we'd see more and more, and that there would be a showdown and there would be more talk. So this was, I think, maybe ahead of Congress returning to town, probably for the president getting this done and irrevocable before Congress gets to town and starts asking for more information and making more demands. Getting this done now maybe helps in that way. Let the president do what he wants to do. And also, maybe after a long break, we've seen sort of a Christmas break of foreign engagement, threatening Iran with reprisals if they quell the unrest in their country. His meeting with Benjamin Netanyahu, on and on and on. So I think maybe this is the capper for his Christmas vacation.
I have so many questions for you, Chris, and I want to talk to you too about the historical aspect of this too, just if we've seen anything like this in the past. But what I want to get to first, though, is the thought of, or what we're hearing, at least one Republican congressman telling me, weren't briefed, knew nothing about it. Everybody's hearing about it from the news. What do you think in terms of, it seems as though the president didn't go to Congress for that congressional authority to brief them. Are there going to be a lot of questions from members of Congress, both Republicans and Democrats, over the legality of all of this, or what happens next?
I think Congress is pretty toothless. I've heard people say, "Is this legal? Is it not legal?" Who's going to enforce that? Who is the entity? What is the entity that is going to tell Donald Trump that this isn't allowed or that he's in trouble for this? I don't think House Speaker Mike Johnson is going to be any trouble for the president in this. Clearly, there are some precedents. We could look at what happened with Manuel Noriega in George H.W. Bush's administration. There are some echoes there. It's a kind of law enforcement. It's kind of military. This is obviously different, right? This is regime change, and the stakes are higher and the future more uncertain in this case. But there is some resonance about a hybrid military law enforcement action. But the idea that this Congress is going to do anything about the fact that the president didn't consult and that this doesn't seem to fall with any legal or even maybe constitutional limits, I don't think this Congress is a credible threat.
Yeah, there might be no guardrails there when it comes to that. And we also heard from our Jackie Coppell, and we'll get to her after this. But she said from a source familiar with the conversation, the Gang of Eight was only notified about the action in Venezuela once it was taking place. So that Gang of Eight includes who you mentioned, House Speaker Mike Johnson. It includes Hakeem Jeffries. It includes the Senate Republican leader, John Thune, as well as the Minority Leader, Chuck Schumer. We're waiting for more reaction, though, I think from a lot of members of Congress, because they're just learning about this in real time as well. Even folks we were talking with at the Pentagon. This seemed like it was held really close to the chest as well. I'm also curious what happens from here, or what do you expect to hear from the president in this press conference when he's asked that question?
Well, a long time ago in American foreign policy, we talked about the Pottery Barn rule. If you break it, you bought it. That was what Colin Powell talked about with Iraq. And so now the United States has disrupted the regime of another country. Now, the United States says that the regime in Caracas is illegitimate. And so does, by the way, most of the world agrees that they don't have real elections in Venezuela. Of course, they don't have real elections in a lot of places. And what happens next will determine. So I say Congress isn't a credible threat. Congress isn't a credible threat right now. But let's say things get out of hand, right? And U.S. forces are deemed to be necessary. The president deems U.S. forces are necessary to ease a transition to his preferred government or something like that. And this starts spinning, then Congress could become a factor. So what you'd have to imagine the administration is hoping for here is that they decapitate the government in Venezuela and that government falls basically on its own. Maybe we know about the CIA has done strikes and stuff on the drug running, but maybe there's some nudging from U.S.-backed interests, but that the regime falls and that the new government comes in and the United States can say, welcome, we congratulate you on being the legitimate government of Venezuela.
Thank you for watching. Subscribe below and download our NewsNation app right now on your phone, and you will get fact-based, unbiased news for all Americans.